Be'ezer Hashem Parshas Bamidbar, Tovshin Pei Gimel. Coming from Lag BaOmer, it's important to learn a musig, a concept that Reb Shimon Bar Yochai teaches us in Zohar HaKodesh, how to look at any kind of abundance of shefa that Rebbeinu Shem sends us. And it could be a very important tool in tefillah, in bitachon, and actually therapeutic. It could help people grow and fix issues, deep pain that people have, sometimes trauma, sometimes parts of the nefesh is broken, and we need to fix it. So there's a tool that we could learn from Zohar HaKodesh, which is practical and very lemaisidig, that a person should learn and do some practice how to help themselves, how to climb a ladder of building yourself, and be a person should have like a refuah to become more a healthy person, a healthy nefesh. Now the concept that we learn in the Kabbalah Sforim, it's a simple concept. I'm using the word Kabbalah and Reb Shimon Bar Yochai because it originates from Reb Shimon Bar Yochai. We're not going to say something who knows what deep. The concept is that any kind of abundance that comes to a person must be absorbed in the person, in order to become part of him. And that's when a person is really becomes yours. The first example to explain that is the Pasuk in Tehillim in Kapitel Aleph, famous Gemara, that it says, Ki b'toyros Hashem cheftzoi, u'b'soyroso yege yom v'loyla. So the Gemara is, Ki im b'soyros Hashem cheftzoi. So the Gemara says that the Pasuk starts off that it's Toyros Hashem, and the Torah continues on to say the Lashon HaPasuk is, u'b'toyrosoi, that it's your Torah. So the Gemara says, in beginning it's Toyros Hashem, but once you're invested to learn the Torah, and it wasn't easy, and you worked on understanding it, slowly it becomes your Torah. B'toyros, in the end, it says B'tchila Toyros Hashem, and then it turns into your Torah. Now, the understanding to this Maimah Chazal is that when a person heard something, nice word on the parasha, or he learned something and it just goes by, it doesn't become part of you. It doesn't change your behavior. It doesn't change your train of thought. You heard something. But once a person reviews that concept of Torah again and again and again and in different scenarios, that means they try to apply what they learned to this part of their life to change the way they talk. Slowly, it became part of them. And that's what it means. Now, you acquired it. It became yours. It's because it's part of you. Right now, it's part of you. The same exact way that by Torah we could understand that concept. When Hashem sends abundance in the tzura, in the form of understanding, any type of understanding, is a certain type of abundance that came from above. We daven, please give us from above, from the Chochmah, from the Rebbeinu Shalom. Hashem should give us that it should click, we should understand something. So Hashem, l'katchila, He gives it. It starts off that Hashem sends it to you. But then, if the person works with it and tries to apply it to their daily mahalach of life, slowly it becomes part of them, and then it's theirs. The tachlis of Torah or mitzvahs is that a person should become connected to what they do. For example, if a person does chesed, it shouldn't just be that they could check they did a chesed today, they did a mitzvah. Just that he should turn into that type of person. And why is it so important? Because after the years of a person finish, after 120, when a person continues on to go to Olam Haba, your neshama comes up there, and the idea is that the neshama should be formed now lefi the Torah. You became a Baal Chesed, you became a good person, and so on. Parts of Torah became your essence. this is a yesod that a person has to constantly remember whenever they learn Torah, whenever they do mitzvahs, that what they're trying to do is they're trying to become a different type of a person. They're trying that it should go so deep into their essence, what they learned and what they do, that they should feel that I'm not the same type of person. I changed my mahalach of thinking, or my mahalach of speaking, my mahalach of doing. I'm a different person. That's a yesod. How a person is supposed to be mekayim Torah mitzvahs. Now, sometimes a person gets a light, a understanding, they learn something, and they feel they're not up to it yet. It can't become part of them because it's too far from where they are right now. And there are many examples. A person could be in a matzav that they saw in Zohar Kodesh that it's such a beautiful, unbelievable tainuk for the Shechina. Hashem gets a nachas ruach when you get up by chatzos and you say Tillim and you learn. And it says in Zohar Kodesh that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is mishtashea with the neshamas of tzaddikim that time. The limud of after chatzos is something special. So, okay, amazing. Now, even if they would do it once, I don't want to say what happened the next day, but they can't become part of them because they don't have yet the vessels, they don't have the tools, they don't have yet the kalim to be able to just all of a sudden do that switch. The simple answer to that is why it's super important to work slowly. It's not only practically so a person should climb the ladder. We say, okay, you try to not speak Lashon Hara for 15 minutes, for an hour, and then we'll get to 2 hours. Of course, it's also practically, and it's a good idea, stamazai. It just happens to be that it's much deeper than that, why it's so important to work that way. When a person is trying to become a better person, if it's in learning, if it's davening, if it's behavior, whatever it is, when you're working slowly, let's understand what happens. The first step, which you feel you're capable of doing right now in the matzav that you are, something tiny, if you're going to take something small upon yourself, what's going to happen is that you have the ability to make that part of you. That's what's so important here. It's not that, listen, it's easy enough, I think I could commit for a week. No. The concept is, if it's small enough, and it better be, but if it's small enough, then you're capable of starting to do it every single day until you don't feel it anymore that it's an effort. And the idea is, Hergel Nase Teva, it becomes part of your behavior. It slowly becomes part of your nature, like say a second nature. That's what they say on Hergel once. The same way that, unfortunately, in the world of diction or whatever, when a person gets so used to doing something and he has such a deep habit, so it's part of their nature. So midah tova meruba, when a person is starting to do something good, so if they do something small that and becomes part of them again and again and again and again and again, what happens is, and here this is where it gets so important to slowly start understanding a new concept in this sugya, in this area of Torah, that the small Kabbalah that you made, by the time it becomes part of your nature, that is the keli. That turns into a vessel that allows you now to go to the next step, because right now you have tools. Right now you have the ability to think about the next little step. And what we mean to say is that you're now ready that the next step should become part of you. Before you did step number 1, if you were trying to think about step number 2, you could try to do it once or twice, but you're not ready that step number 2 should become part of you, because you're not the type, you can't. It's not yet, you're not up to it, and even if you're going to do it, it's not going to become part of your nature. There's so many simple examples. Let's use the simple, pashto example. A person is trying to concentrate by davening, and they hear such a beautiful werte about it, and if you daven without understanding, it's like kaguf b'loy neshama and all that, to the good, and hisoirus and musar. but their mind is all over the place, and they try, they really want, and they hear that it should be beautiful, but it just doesn't work. They try, and all of a sudden they find themselves somewhere else. And we open up a discussion, and we say, how about Mizmor L'Soida? One part of davening, Mizmor L'Soida. You think you're capable? He's going to try. You could do one pasuk of Mizmor L'Soida, but that pasuk is, you love that pasuk. That pasuk happens in it every single day. It could even be a half of a pasuk, technically. Yismach Hashem v'ma'asav. I love that part. Yismach Hashem v'ma'asav. But then again and again and again, it's ba'ofen zguli. It means it's deep. It's not only practical that then you're going to go to the next step. It's deeper than that. You are forming within yourself, inside, internally. You're making place for something new to come when you're doing that. And it's going to happen naturally that you're going to become capable of doing the next step. We could use an example of reading, which is I think we once used that example when you teach little children first the aleph beis, and then you teach them the nakudas, and then they have to be able to connect oisius, full words, and then say a few words. You can't go quick. Chas v'sholem. You could ruin the child for always. Shem Yirachem. And unfortunately there are many of that. That means it has to be natural, the step beforehand. It's not an effort anymore. Before that, you're not allowed to go to the next step, because it's going to be like they call chafif. I mean, he's going to hear it. It doesn't superficial. It doesn't become part of the person. The whole concept of reading is that when you read, you don't feel like you're reading. When a person has their mother tongue language, the language that they used to read, they read. It's fine. And the reason why it's so important is because if someone, while they're learning Gemara or Tosfos, has to put in so much effort to try to say the words right, it's not simple, because they can't use their head for understanding, because they're so invested to try to say it right. And if it's still in public and they're scared they're going to be embarrassed that they said it wrong, it's just not going to work. The mom is stuck. They cannot go weiter. So it's in Yiddishkeit, wherever we go, there is this nakuda. Now, there's a Yetzer Hara. You could find a father in shul learning with his child that's 8 years old, and he's learning a Mishnah. 9 years old, he's learning a Mishnah, and the kid wants to go back, and the father says, hey, where are you going? Stop. What did you say? I want you to touch. Did you see? You skipped a word. You didn't touch a word. You don't know what you're saying. And he's like, no, I know. And the father says, no, you don't know. That Yetzer Hara never leaves a person. It's not a 9-year-old Yetzer Hara. You could be 55. You could be 65. It's there. The nefesh wants to skip. You want to skip. It's like when people go up the steps and they go 2 at a time. They always go 2 at a time. We don't read instructions. We say, I know how to fix it myself. It's good. You don't want to take the savlonos to go the little words and do it step 1 and then step number 2. Or it could be the way people drive. But people don't have the savlonos to do the first step and iron it out until you're finished, and then naturally you just slip right into the second step without, it just happened. It happened on its own. There's a lot. There's a lot of reasons why we don't have the nerve, and we don't have the, how do you say savlonos? The patience. The patience to go step by step and not skip. Our minds, especially in today's generation, we don't know how to concentrate. We don't want to read. We just read every second word. You have all these teasers that they show you that you just didn't chop all the mistakes because you're only reading every second word, and so on. It's in all aspects. And where's it negeya for what we're trying to learn? In feelings, when you're talking about building, the same concept of building knowledge, like when you're learning aleph beis, if you skip step number 1, you mamish messed up for step number 2. Feelings is the same. When a person is learning, they're experiencing, they're slowly developing an understanding what trust means, what love means, what caring means, and weiter. There's a mahalach. You can't skip. Very important. Rebbeinu Shalom set up an amazing mahalach how that works. A child is born. You can't talk to the child when the child is 1 day old and say, "Let me explain to you something." Okay? You're new here. Let's introduce Baruchim Aboim to this family. Okay. We all care for you. So even if I slap you and I make you go to sleep on your own, we really care. Let's just explain it to you, and so you have it once and for all. Write it down. It doesn't work like that. But so how do you explain that to the child? There's no other way to explain it besides physically. To hold the child, to hug the child, to cuddle the child nurses, the child gets care physically. More. It clicks in their mind, that feeling. What it means. There's trust involved, there's care involved, there's love, there's a lot of parts. When they slowly turn 1 year old, 2 years old, 3 years old, whenever it clicks, the concept is that they should be able to understand that even without that physical touch. They should chappe, they should believe you. They should trust you. They should feel that you care for them, even if right now you're not in the mother's lap. It takes time. You sometimes see that you went too quick. The child is 6 years old, but the child still needs it. Running to the mother's lap. The child didn't get enough. Now that means we went to step 2 before step number 1. The idea is that slowly the child, the adult, whatever it is going to be able to understand the concept, and then the more you understand the concept, the less you have to use the chushim, the senses. Older child, you can still give a kiss and a hug, it depends, whatever, but you don't anymore have to, the child doesn't have to sit in a lap. You don't need that part anymore. Then you could have an older person, you don't even need any contact, you could just say something. Sometimes you don't even have to say. It could be with the eyes. The idea is that you don't have to see those eyes anymore. And when you reach that level, then you're ready to have Bitachon the Rebbeinu Shalom. Because the understanding how this works is so yesodi, fundamental, built from the bottom up, that right now, I don't need right now to hear back people that have broken relationships in today's Michigan world. They have to hear a message back. They need to see an emoji. It's a broken. I don't want to use the word Mishigon. It's not bringing out the point. The concept is it's broken. So you only if it's going to be verves vos, then you're going to believe or feel or be angeret or whatever it is that there's something there. The whole idea of building a child from the bottom up is that means that Emma is a close friend. They didn't speak for 3 years. They meet, there's nothing. They're so close. Even when they didn't meet, they know that's a close friend. But why? Because the idea is that you don't need any more need. It's like a missile that gets shot. The chomer nefetz is the explosives is just by the spitz. The whole rest falls down. A space shuttle. You added, you tied up to it a bunch of things in order to make it go. But once it went, you don't need any more all the arum and arum. You don't need that.
When said on is there's a Maila, a Talmud. One Talmud understands the Ruch when he speaks, but a Talmud is able to understand what the Ruch's thinking when he doesn't speak.
Amazing. A real Talmud, he knows what he knows what he's thinking. He was koine the train of thought It took time. It doesn't happen. Slowly, and then you could be a Baal Bitachon. Why could you be a Baal Bitachon? Because you got such a Yesodistic training that because you got the physical, that's why now you don't need it. Because the Havana penetrated. He says that Bisan wrote a letter and then he left a few lines empty. He said a good friend could understand without any oisius. It is more than oisius. This is what I'm writing to you. Now, the base is a Beis HaLevi. We never touched it, because before we learn this concept, it's very hard to understand this Beis HaLevi. The Beis HaLevi says, why do you have to do Ishtadlus? The $1 million question from Chavis Halvova Sha'ar Bitachon. So the Chavis Halvova says a bunch of reasons we learned in the past. The Beis HaLevi says something in Chiddush. The Beis HaLevi says, you know why you have to do Ishtadlus? Because if you're not going to do something for whatever to happen, you want something to be Mesuda, if you're not going to go work or you're not going to go pick up the phone and make that phone call or whatever it is, then it's going to be very hard for you to have real Bitachon. That's what the Beis HaLevi says. He says, do something. And now, it's like training wheels. Now it's easy for you to have Bitachon. Now, there's a reason why we never mentioned it, Kemat. Because it looks like it contradicts everything that we learned. And to say it out, what the problem is, because what do you mean? If the reason that I could have Bitachon is because I did something for it, then I'm having Bitachon of what I did. Then I believe that I can make it happen. Then it's bringing me closer to real Bitachon, or maybe it's bringing me the other direction. And that's the $1 million question always. You say, only one Ishtadlus and your Ishtadlus is nothing, but you better do Ishtadlus. We're going back to that question, that Ishtadlus is taking me further away. But Lefi, what we just learned, we could have a new understanding in that Beis HaLevi. A new understanding of Beis HaLevi. And we're touching something very sensitive in the Sugis of Bitachon now. When a person says, Bitachon works gewaldig. Okay, I have Bitachon, whatever it is. I'm talking about a new problem, not the old problems that we spoke about. Superficial, you said, is the word? Superficial. There's something very, very superficial about that machshava. Not Yesodi, it's not part of him. He is now, it's not emes machshava, because he didn't climb that ladder. You talk to a person and he says, I had Bitachon. I started learning Sha'ar Bitachon, and since I started learning Sha'ar Bitachon, I discovered a new world, and I have Bitachon on this, and I have Bitachon Baruch Hashem. So you ask that person, how long are you already learning Sha'ar Bitachon? He says, what do you mean? What? He says, the last 2-3 weeks. 2-3 weeks, okay. We have a long way to go. What's the pshat? You're so new, it's so fresh. You definitely didn't reach that deep understanding, though that musig of trying and failure, the trial and error, till you got no, so that wasn't real, that wasn't true. It's just chafif. It's around with you. It's like hearing something, but you never really. It didn't become part of you. It didn't resonate. It didn't become your mohos, your essence. When a person didn't learn he didn't follow the path of Bitachon from the bottom up, then it's not real. Now, Reb Shimon Bar Yochai says that you have to just have Bitachon, don't go to work, don't. Then the Gemara says, Reb Shimon Bar Yochai will also be Yodam. They try to copy. You can't copy it. The only way to really build Yesodis to Bitachon, the Beis HaLevi says, and it's something different and new from what we learned, is to be a very Yesodis, the normal person first. Go to work. Learn the process. Not the fake world. That's dumb garbage. It's a garnished. We're saying if we try to remember from 20, 30 years ago, or there's still normal people around, the normala system, you go to work, this is what you do. There's a mahalach that if you follow the process, you're supposed to earn something. There's a normal mahalach of how to do it. If you jump and you borrowed a few $1 million before anything, okay, that's not a normal mahalach. Today people think it's normal, but if you went the normal process, you learn trust. You learn how people work. You learn that it's normal to trust. A child that was brought up with the normal, healthy relationship atmosphere got the Beis Halevi's ishtadlus. That means they learned how normal people relate to each other. When they say something, they mean it. There's care, there's love, there's relationships, it's normal. Then they're ready to leave go of being boiteach ba'odam, the gesund, and they say, 1 second, why did I trust that person? Because it makes sense. He's a normal person. He's honest. He told me he's going to bring it till Tuesday. He said, I'm going to bring it till Tuesday. And the guy bought it. Whenever that person said he's going to deliver, he delivered. The person, he felt he was in business. He felt he can't deliver because he doesn't know if he's going to have it on time. He said, I want to be honest with you. I'm not sure I'm going to have it. You said you need it before Shabbos. You said you need the carriage before Yom Tov. I can't promise. I wish I would. I promise you. I can't promise. No, so what happens? So slowly you see Vidus Arbeit normal. And you develop within yourself all of that. Then you say, listen, Rebbe Shem says that if I'm going to do mitzvahs, and things are going to be good. If you're going to daven, I listen. I don't have to see it anymore. Because from 100 times experiencing it and seeing that this is normal, I understand it. Ich verstehe. Such type of people, they don't get upset at the Rebbe Shem. They say it's Dar Cheshvan. They believe it's Dar. Because if their Chavrusa came every single day, 9 o'clock at time, and then once in 3 years he didn't come, I don't have to be a Baal Madrega to believe that there was a Cheshvan. He's not making Latzanos of me. I know. So when they saw it in the world of Gashmias, they became strong enough to be able to understand it, feel it, live it, without seeing the physical. I don't need it anymore. So many times with good friends or whatever, he says, someone promises and he says, I could promise you and I could bring you Edis. He says, cut it out. I trust you. I don't need you zetlich. I trust you. In Shidduchim, if you have a close friend that calls you up and tells you I have a good shidduch for you, if it's a close friend, you don't need anything. Ich weiß. The Beis Halevi is saying, not bedafke to this specific case that you have to do. The Beis Halevi is giving us an idea. He's saying a person must go through the process of what it means to take a karka and to plow, to charisha and Emunah Seder Zroya. The whole Gashmistic world, that's what our Chaim says in Parshas Bo, is Mishalem for Ruchnius. If you're not going to connect to the Chochmos Chaim of how Gashmias works, your Choyvas Alvavis and your Tiferes Shloime and your Pri Tzadik and your whatever sefer you're going to learn, it's not going to be Yesoidi. You're going to be swimming. It's not going to be real. It's very important to chap this. The way to get to be a person that when they have bitachon, it's not wishful thinking, it's not living in denial, it's not hope out of desperation. It's, he understands, there's a system, it's so poshut. Is by a person being out there. He learned to trade. He learned wie ze der Welt arbeitet. He's not a little He's a bochel that he thinks, oh, you could just have fun, I'm going to be a millionaire tomorrow, I thought of a new idea. No. He saw the world. He saw what does work, what doesn't work. He saw what it means honest people and dishonest people. He saw everything. He chapped the system. Now, you're ready to learn that you could leave go of dafka having to see it and to feel it and to sense it. Now, let's take this a little bit further. First, you want to ask a shayla?
Probably getting there. How you repair if that didn't happen in the first place? It's broken.
Let's get to this part. Now, where is it more important? If it didn't happen, and for a lot of people, not every person went through every parak, read every chapter, up to chapter 55, because you could verhear them till chapter 55. I don't know. They had this in life, that in life, whatever. So, person gets older, they have some kind of experience. Let's hope they learned from Sachen that happened to them. But many times you see, no, I had a mistake. I'm missing something, and it's a roiv. That means that most of us, a strong majority, very, very. The majority of people, you missed this, you missed that. It depends. People had different experiences in life. We didn't all go through all experiences. Baruch Hashem. So, da kommt a große Yesod. When you see something is a concept that I can't connect to that concept. It's just, you feel, I hear what you're saying, but I don't, I can't absorb it. It will become part of me. Back to the first part of the shir. The mahalach how to build that is by creating kelim for that. I mean, the person had a name. So let's say a Gemara example, and that's going to help us understand it in different. When a person is learning a Gemara or a Tosfos or any concept, and they don't understand the words, or they don't understand the kasha, that means that they're missing something earlier. And if they're serious about the learning, they go back to the Mishnah and they say, I thought I could skip the Hagdama. I think I should do the Hagdama. Let me read the beginning, understand what's this Mishnah all about, and then I could build up, and then it'll be Mesudah. That means when a person sees later on in the game that they missed a certain part, that then they go back and they say, let me just not see one more line. Let me learn it well, and that's going to give me the musagim to be able to go weiter. Every time a person is missing something, the mahalach how to fix it is to go back wherever this person is not broken, and to sit there again and again and again until that part that's not broken automatically starts to a little bit expand. Let's explain. This is Zeh Yesoidi in fixing a broken nefesh, what we're learning right now. Let's go right away to the Nimshal, and we'll go back to when you have a person that went through abuse, broken relationships, trauma, whatever it is, they lost trust in people. Certain parts of their nefesh is broken. They can't have now a normal relationship. Or any type of matzav that they freeze when they see this, or they go back into such a matzav, they can't. It's broken. They can't concentrate. They can't enjoy, because that part of their soul was broken, and it's broken. So you send them to this mocha. And many times that's where it gets really painful. They say, I've been by so many professionals. I've spent $1 million on professionals. I was all over the place. Nobody could help me. The Torah could help anybody. The challenge is that when a person is broken and you give them a chovas halvovos, it's not constricted. It's not in a tzimtzum. It's too much light that it should be able to shine and illuminate that part which is broken. That's what we called right in the beginning of the shir. You're saying that the Rebbeinu Shalom did everything, and you're saying it was for the good. It's echoing in my mind. Ich hab das gehört 1000-mal. I heard it from my Rosh Hashiva, from that professional, from the Mashpia. It's not helping me. But Torah, besides being light, is ner. Ner, when a person makes b'dikas chometz, we learn it from the pasuk, Ner Hashem nishmas adam chofes kol chadri batan. It means there's a koyach in Torah to take a part of Torah and it should become so mitzumtzim that it should be able to come to go in b'choylun of his dach, to go into a hole. There's such a koyach. The question is, how do we touch that koyach? That's the $1 million question. How do we do it? One of the Mahalchim how to do such a zach, and here's where it's so important, is by let's find a nekuda in the nefesh which is not broken. Zogme, let's say you lost trust in people because of whatever happened. Is there any person that you could think about that you do trust? They think, oh, that guy, he's a good guy. Usually. Maybe in the beginning a person is going to say, nah, nobody. But then there's one family member or one mechanech from Amal. He really cared for me, but he was the only person that cared for me. All the rest of the people, I don't want to say. Okay. Could we start having a Seder every single day of concentrating only, there's no people in the world. There's one person, you and that person in the world. Think about that person. Think about the toivas that person did. Think about the caring that have the tzura in your mind of that person. When you take a part of the nefesh that's not broken, and you start watering it, don't rush. The problem is that we rushed. When we're doing the process of refuah, you better not rush. Let's not do the same mistake again. We could be busy with this for a few months. We're in no rush, because if we believe that one day we could fix this, you're joking. It pays to spend all the time. No rush. The name of the game is not to rush. Only when it's going to naturally, you're going to feel that you're ready to think about one more person. You're ready to trust one more person. Because if he's maybe it's a guy in the street that has a cheskes kashrus, you could trust that person slowly. And this is one example. The same example is in any part of the nefesh that's broken. If you could pinpoint and say that's part of, sometimes you need a person that could tell it to you. What is the nekuda that's so broken? What is the name of the pain that you have? Trauma, the pshat is, there was a very deep feeling, extremely deep feeling that touched, that scratched part of the nefesh. And we could say, where do you have that kind of feeling which is not broken? You have to identify if it's you have to give a name to that feeling that's broken, and find where do you have that feeling somewhere tiny. But it's not broken. There it's not broken. There's always something. There's always something. The yesod of refuah is in some girses in Refainu, arucha umarpe lechol tachloenu. How does it work? A part of the finger, if a piece of fell off, or whatever it is, the part which is not broken starts bringing more cells, and that's how it fixes the wherever there's a wound. That's what happened. That's how the fool works. Because a person, medavdas verstehen, and we have to stand till this adasof. A person has chayim, and the Eibishter made that is a yesod of tchiyas hamesim in a person. The yesod of tchiyas hamesim is called as a etzem luz. There's a bone and that never dies. And when the time is going to come, from that etzem, it's gonna make the whole person is gonna again. It's very nochmal a mensch because it didn't die. Whenever something died on a person, it never died out of self. It never. There's always somewhere, it's still chai. You could still find a live cell. Say that. Work with that. A bissel, and you're saving. I once heard of a man that they took bochrim that they went off, and they worked with tainug of cholent and kogel, nothing, just plain. Every time sue this and that. Anything that had to do with Yiddishkeit, that had with food. Only, nothing else. Don't talk about anything else. Again, slips, it's slowly. You could fix things when you work with tiny little steps that you should go weiter. Se ken sein that's the yesod of Rav Preda. Rav Preda learned with his Talmud 400 times. Now, let's try to understand. There's a Gemara, the Talmud doesn't get it. 10 times, 20 times, 40 times, 150 times, 262 times. What's going to happen? The Talmud is just going to like, gehet! Genug gewen. Okay, but the 400 times he's going to chap, he doesn't chap. Maybe there's a bit of a different understanding in that Gemara. You know what he did 400 times? He did 400 times what the guy does understand. That means, you don't understand this? Okay. I'm not talking about that anymore. It's a very, very important yesod. If you don't understand the Gemara, I'm not explaining the Gemara to you. If you don't understand the whoever learns Gemara, Marshal, and you don't understand the Marshal, I'm not going to say repeat the Marshal. No, there's no point in repeating the Marshal 400 times. The Lomdim say, if you want to know if you understood Tosfos, you look at the Marshal. If you don't understand the Marshal's Kasha, then you didn't learn Tosfos. If you don't understand the concept, then what we do is, we go back and we do 400 times the previous concept until you're going to ask the Kasha. That's what happened after 400 times that I'm afraid. Let's review Kita Aleph. Let's go back to Kita Aleph. Let's fix it. Let's not be scared. And you see children, you could help children like that. Bochrim. Some need a hug. You have to identify which feeling is broken. Which piece of knowledge is broken. It's not only in feelings. People say, I've heard all the drashas on Bitachon. Okay, stop it already. You want to live that funny life, live it, but I don't know, it doesn't work for me. What these people are saying, or anybody that says anything about Yiddishkeit in that kind of mahalach, what they're saying is, right now, I have no kelim for the light that you want to send me. I don't connect with it, okay? People are on a chassidus, which has this chumrah and that chumrah and whatever it is, and they're like, cut it out. You don't mean to the Rebbeinu Shalom, and they're upset and rebellious. It's adults, it's teenagers, it's this type of stuff. It's all the same zach. It's the same zach. It's pshat zazoy. Could you tell me what you want? And when I don't understand what you want from me, then my conclusion is, you're crazy, or you don't know what you're talking about, and it's a disconnect. Parents with children, it's all over the place. When the Torah wants us to break down things, that means stop saying something that the person has no kelim to be makabel, because what you're doing is you're doing the opposite. It's just making a big mess. The Eibusha wants us. A person should believe the reason why I didn't find the light in any part of my life. Torah, Tefillah, Emunah, Bitachon, relation, anything. It's all the lights of Torah. The lights of Torah are emes. It's emes. If I didn't connect with a certain part of Torah, it doesn't illuminate. It doesn't enlighten. It doesn't give me anything. I don't connect. If it's real Torah, then there's only one reason. The Torah is here and you're here, and that's why it's not making that click. What we must do is, as we gain and learn, let's go back and see what piece of information are you ready to hear. that piece, and here now we have to go back to the beginning of the shir. That piece of information, once a person is clear with it and they applied it and it became part of them, that itself, because it becomes part of the person, that is the vessel which now opened up. Something new opened. That only now we could talk about the second part. The Gemara says, Hashem cries. Two of them is that someone was that he's supposed the person, we can see the Gemara Chagiga Daf Hey. Now we have to find it. Here it is. Shlosh HaKadosh Baruch Hu boicha alein b'chol yom al she'efshar la'asek b'toyre ve'eino yoisik v'al she'i efshar la'asek b'toyre ve'oisik. Someone that he could learn, it's chaval. He has the kishin and he's not learning. So Hashem cries, and then Hashem cries al she'i efshar la'asek b'toyre ve'oisik. There's many explanations on this Gemara. Hashem cries to someone that can't learn, and they learn. Baruch Hashem. So there's a word, I think I heard it from the Chafetz Chaim, that it's talking about, it's a bechiyah shel simcha. That Hashem is watching this person, at lefil cheshbon, he wouldn't be able to learn. But he's pushing himself. Hashem is, but the pashas in the Gemara is boicha. Boicha means pain. When you're learning and you're not ready to learn, it's very painful. Because what's happening is the opposite. It's causing the disconnect. And we spoke about Bitachon in the beginning of the shir, but be'etzem, when you're talking about the biggest problems of chinuch is this. The biggest pain. Because we see a child doing an avla, whatever it is, and it's so hard for us to not react and smile and just see, before we say anything, see where they're up to and try to take the knowledge all the way down to their darga and talk about what they do understand until they say, you know something? Oy bazoy, I think I did something wrong yesterday. On their own they should say it. It's easy to say, but Wiffel Havona is built healthy when you don't tell them, what were you thinking? That person doesn't chap what was the avla. Totally doesn't chap what they did wrong. When you scream at something that you should know you're a shegit and he has no idea what they did wrong, HaKadosh Baruch Hu boicha, because there's no kalim for that. He comes to a conclusion, and I'm sure going to mention though. Weird people. And you hear it constantly. Akaponim, we're touching many topics, but the yesoid of the whole shir, it's coming back to one yesoid. Understanding of Torah is a kind of abundance. It's a shefa. It's the Rebbeinu Shem is giving you something. Any havona in Torah. Bitachon is a havona in Torah. It's understanding something. You can't be built. Let's have bitachon. Trust. It's simple. A, Hashem does everything. B, everything is for the good. Why aren't you happy? No? What's going on? Okay. Someone's whole family died out. Beseder, but it's for the good. What's the rest? So you don't have panos. Beseder. Baruch Hashem. What are you doing? If you chap that it has to go from the bottom up, and then the person knows it, then you also chap this Beis HaLevi of the Hishtadlus. That Hashem set up a world. I want you to learn the healthy mahalach of everything, and then slowly you're going to be able to understand it without touching, without seeing it. That was the second part of the shir. Then we spoke about if it was skipped, and then what you do is you go back and you try to find where it's not broken. And there's always something like that, a cell that's still alive, a etzem luz that you could still make triyas amesim there, and you build from this slowly. And tzebislach, you could fix. You could be'emes fix Sachen, and people would be amazed what could happen when arbeit was so teufen. But it's a arbeit of a whole life. People learn from mistakes. You have to have like a mahalach how to learn from mistakes. One of the sentences a person says to himself when they say they learn from mistakes is, what did I skip? It's in all aspects in life. That means, okay, I thought I got it, but I missed one part. Where did I go wrong is, when did I skip a step? Let me go back and let me fix it. And then I'm geboit. It's not like, okay, I'm never going to do that again because I learned this. I don't do. People make assumptions. They were Orav once on Alvor and it fell through. Okay, I learned from my mistakes. You don't do this anymore. No, you didn't build. You didn't build. You go into the Yesoidis. What did I skip? You're supposed to do a chesed. You're supposed to go out of your way, but I don't have the money to pay it. So what's the detail that I went wrong? And let me work on that. Okay, it's Tan L'Chocham Yech Kamoit. Say that. A good year.